Welcome back to Sitting with Spirit, my loves, the part of the podcast where I sit with our angels, our guides, and I give the messages for the collective. Take what resonates, leave the rest. So, I've been in this moment personally where I feel like my guides are kind of coddling me and being very gentle with me. And what I mean is, I've been going through like some clunkiness, some frustration, and like immediately, I will get an email from someone saying something really nice or the exact sign that I needed. And so things have felt very in flow for me lately. And that being said, this morning I got an email from a listener who is a therapist, and it felt very synchronistic to me because this episode is talking about therapy and expanding upon traditional therapy and all of these things. And basically, I wanted to start sitting with spirit by addressing this email that came through today. So, this email came from a longtime listener who is a therapist who feels a little frustrated with the rap that therapy gets in the metaphysical space. And I can understand why she feels that way because I feel like as a reader, we get a really bad rap in other spaces. And I can really empathize with that. And I can understand how frustrating it feels when you're doing ethical service based work that you see helping people and changing lives. And then there are certain people in the field not doing that. And it makes the whole field look bad to people. So I can really understand. And I just wanted to speak a little bit of what she wanted to shine light on. She's saying that she is a traditional therapist and that so many traditional therapists are getting into therapy to help people. And it is this form of being a healer and a light worker on earth. And I could not agree with her more. So I hope if you're a longtime listener of the pod, we are not bashing traditional therapy. I think that it's so worthwhile. I think everybody needs therapy. I think Claire and I in episode 117 we're speaking more to maybe where we have felt let down by therapy and some things that aren't working for us with therapy, but that doesn't mean all therapists. And so she was saying that somatic healing is more prominent in the traditional therapy spaces than we might think. And she says, for example, she's trained in a method called TRM, trauma resiliency model, that focuses on somatic experiencing and healing trauma through the nervous system. And then she knows colleagues that practice EMDR and EFT, which are all evidence based clinical interventions that she says. So, in no way am I saying that there is no value in therapy. And I know a lot of therapists listen to this podcast. And I think, especially if you're a therapist that listens to this podcast and is on this deeper spiritual journey and understanding like the energetics of things and wanting to do this deep inner work as well, I think that that is definitely not who I'm talking about in moments where I say I'm not resonating with traditional therapy. I think traditional therapy is awesome and needed and has swung the pendulum forward towards healing in such a valuable way. So, this is just me wanting to give a little love note to the therapists in case you're feeling some type of way about how we talk about traditional therapy. If you have clients and you are healing them, and you see the progression and you see the momentum, then that is not what we're talking about. I think where it can become frustrating is like telling the same story over and over and over again. And I think that's where traditional talk therapy can be a part of the puzzle that's very important, but not the entire puzzle. And that's okay too. And even as a reader, sometimes I'm like, you guys actually don't need a reading, you need therapy. So all of these different modalities and healing spaces have a place, and not one thing will be a whole puzzle for everything, but that doesn't mean that the puzzle piece that we bring is not valuable. So, love note to all the therapists. Thank you for what you do. So, now I want to go into the messages for the week. And that's what was so synchronistic too, is that this email came in the morning that I was going to do Sitting with Spirit for the therapy episode. So, love that synchronicity. So, that being said, moving into the messages from our angels for the week, the first symbol that I saw was the symbol of the healer, which is also synchronistic. And the symbol of the healer is a sign of our focus being on healing, mind, body, soul. And that's very much where the collective energy is right now as well, with the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. And the sign of the healer is like us healing ourselves so that we can be a healing force in the world. And then with that, I saw the sign of the crossroads, which is kind of like a transition, an in between moment. But I almost got this feeling that we don't even realize that we're in a crossroads moment. Like there's almost this feeling here of when we look back, we'll realize how transformative the time that we're in is. But right now, it just feels maybe confusing or like we're not making that much progress, but we actually really are. So there's something sneaky about the crossroads as they come through. And crossroads are a time of decision making and in betweens and transition. And then I was also seeing the symbol of home and family. And I felt like there, of course, this goes out to thousands of people. So there can be either a theme around like inner family unit healing. There could be themes of starting a family. There could be themes of home and moving. There can be themes of ancestral cycle breaking. So that was coming up. And these three symbols were like superimposed over the crossroads. And it basically felt like we're in this moment where we're making new choices. Like the crossroads were half in shadow, half in light. And it just gave me this feeling that it's kind of this energetic stew right now. There's like a lot of layers to the energy. And it just feels like we have to stay moment to moment, just focused on the immediate choice in front of us and choosing a more healed, powerful choice, micro moment to micro moment. Because where the energy doesn't feel supported is trying to zoom out too big into this like 5-year plan or where we're going. And it feels like right now everything's focusing on us in the present and what's in our power here and now. And that's why we might not even realize how transformative of a moment we're actually in. It's like these little micro choices that are adding up to really big shifts. And even like a year from now, when you look back on this time, you'll be like, wow, thank you to me then for choosing to show up more powerfully or authentically. So, that being said, in that vein, I saw this image of this huge tree, but you could only see the middle section and the top was completely covered by fog. And it gave me more of that feeling of like, we're in the middle of it right now. So we can't see the bigger picture. We can't see the majesty of where the tree is going. We can't see past the fog. We're just in this moment where we're doing like the very steady, deep work that is, it's like the middle of the tree doesn't get as much attention as the roots and the top of the tree and the leaves. That's where everybody focuses. But the middle is that like core steadiness. And I feel like that's where the energy is focusing right now on like our solidity, our healing, and our center. And so don't worry if you can't see through the fog. You aren't meant to right now. The next thing that came through was just hearing, you are beautiful. And I felt like this is part of the shadow too, is something coming up around feeling beautiful, loving ourselves, loving our physical body, feeling good in our physical body. And I just like, I feel this joy as I'm talking about this, but I feel this love from your angels and just this sentence of you are beautiful. Remember that you are beautiful. And something that I like to do if I'm ever in a moment where I'm not feeling beautiful or I'm not feeling my best is looking in the mirror and asking my angels, like, show me what I look like through your eyes. And that can be a really powerful practice. So, that being said, there is this message here of some needing to be lighter and gentler with ourselves. Like sometimes when we talk about our healing journey, and that is such a focus in the collective, we can get militant with ourselves and we can get really disappointed with ourselves if we feel like we're not making progress or we're not doing all of the things right or we're comparing ourselves to other people's journey. And so I feel like there's something here about like, it's okay if you can't do all the things. It's okay if you can only show up and do a few things. Just do those few things with grace and compassion and kindness towards yourself and others. So the energy just feels very layered. It just feels like we have to have grace with ourselves, be gentle with ourselves. And I think some of the stress of not knowing the future, not knowing what's to come, feeling uncertain or afraid of the future, it's energetically draining. And we might not be able to show up in ways that we previously did when we weren't in that state. So there's just this sense of like, it's not going to be like this forever. It's not going to be like this forever. Give yourself grace through in between moments and just meet yourself where you're at with kindness and know that you are worth that. Like, how would you treat little you? I want to go into the mediumship now. And I actually had a little boy and a little girl showing up together. They seemed to be about 4 or 5 to me. And the little girl was my primary contact, but she made it very clear that she was with a brother in the spirit world as well. And they would have either been twins or 1 year apart. And they were laughing together, they were playing together. And then this is what was very interesting is I kept seeing a sphinx, like an ancient Egyptian sphinx, like a rock carving of a sphinx. And I felt like that would be significant to whoever this is for. And I'm not going to try to interpret what that means. I'm just going to say what I got. And I feel like they would have passed maybe 7 or 8 years ago. It feels like they passed a while ago. And the daughter was showing me like handmade clothes that her mom would make for her. And I also saw big embroidered bows, like putting a lot of bows in her hair and like a lot of pink and a lot of like girly stuff and making those clothes for her. I did feel like there would have been some sort of accident that led to their passing, and I felt a lot of pain in my stomach. I also felt a tie to the month of April, and I saw the letter A, and then I heard the name Patricia. It's interesting because even on my personal mediumship, it ties into this little girl's message. So, this little girl's message is we are together. Do not worry about us. We are together in the spirit world and we are well. And I get this sense from them of like, we are well. And they're like playing. And I almost feel like the ways they would visit, I feel like there's one sibling that is living and two that are in spirit. And there's a sense of like wanting to play with that sibling, wanting to bring that sibling out of their shell, wanting to bring happiness because they see the grief that their passing has left the family with. And there's this sense of like, we're playing on the other side. We acknowledge your sadness, but we don't want that. And so this leads me to like where I've been at with my personal development of mediumship. Something that's recurring over and over in my sessions, which I know a lot of mediums listen to this podcast. And if you're a developing medium, sometimes you'll get the same types of messages or readings over and over again. And it's like your guides sort of hammering home a lesson. And you just have to follow where the power's taking you. And for me, that comes with lately, I've been not only connecting with one person, but they're showing me everybody that they're with. And I think there's this big emphasis on like community in the spirit world and that they're never alone and that there's continued healing and love on the other side. And it's very rare. I don't think it's actually ever happened to me that there's just one person on their own. They are always telling me like who they're with and the dynamic between them and all of those things. So there's just a message here for the collective of like, don't worry about your people. They are held, they are loved in the spirit world, and they're all together, just like we have community here. We have to be here for the people that are still earthside and be a part of community with the people that are, around us on the physical world. And then we have a whole community that's together in the spirit world. So nobody is ever alone or afraid. And I know that there's just so much misinformation about the spirit world out there that makes people feel like, oh my gosh, purgatory and loneliness and suffering. And as a professional medium in the space, I've never seen proof or evidence for that. It's always love, it's always healing. And I think that these kids really wanted to be like, we're good. And we're actually playing and we're together. And it's not only us, but it's all of these other family members too. And so that's the message there is that there is more love around you in the spirit world than you know. And there's like a whole community that has each other's backs and the backs of the people that they love. So that's the message here today, my loves. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week and we will see you soon.